Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we're gonna try and figure out what went wrong with the front end of the Challenger here. You could pretty much hear it in the entire video of me coming back, the last video of that road trip video series I did. And pretty much the sound is coming from this right front, which is also the one that I attempted to do the brakes on. So who knows, maybe I goofed something up. So I got a head start. Car's already up in the air on this side and on a jack stand. So we're gonna get under there and take off the wheel and see if we can see anything on this side before we lift the whole thing up. But before we get into that, I wanted to put in here, be on the lookout. My uncle's race van was stolen from Las Vegas this past week. He had his basically his race van tows around his, or actually contains his racing cart. So his racing shifter cart was in the van with all his spare tools, or with all his tools, all his spare parts. Basically his entire race program was inside of that van, and that was stolen out of La Quinta in Las Vegas somewhere. So I wanted to get into a little bit more detail on my my uncle's cart that I'm talking about here that's stolen. So this is my dad's brother, and he's also my godfather. So I've always been pretty close with this particular uncle. Not that I'm not close with all my uncles, but I'm particularly close with Uncle Larry. So this cart he's missing. So, all right, well, it was out of a silver 1999 Ford, what was it, E350, I think he said. So, I mean, you've seen one, you've seen them all. Van was kind of beat up. The van's not important. So what had happened was, apparently, as I was driving back and forth to Florida and that sort of thing, my uncle hopped in his car, and he lives in Michigan on the other side of the city from me. He hopped in his car and drove to California. So he drove to California to buy this brand new cart. Well, new to him. It's the cart is a, let me read it off here, a 2017 Anderson 257 rotax powered superkart. And then it's got all his tools and spare parts that he has for this thing, and and it's racing is a big thing in my family. We've been racing since before I was born. My dad's twin brother raced what's essentially super bikes, an American version of it, and he was a factory Yamaha rider and that sort of thing. And then of course that got his brothers into it, so it started out as my Uncle Tom and my Uncle Dave raced sidecars. And then and they did pretty well at that, so they were on the national circuit, going around the country racing sidecars. So at some point they had a big wreck in Long Beach, California, and so instead of my Uncle Dave being the rider on the sidecar, it started to be my Uncle Larry. And that's how he, got his start into racing, was being on the sidecar of Uncle Tom's bike. So we've been in racing a long time. So, when he grew up, or, when he graduated college, he went into the Navy, and they put him out in California, and he basically stayed there. And he met these guys who race, karts and stuff like that. And, he kind of became friends with them. So my uncle drove all the way out to California to meet up with his old racing buddies, now that he lives back in Michigan again. And he bought a cart from a guy there. So it's probably like, how coronavirus is, restricting travel. So some of his buddies that he raced with were from the UK. So it's probably, one of the UK drivers, because that's why it's got the UK livery on the cart there. But the thing is, what really burns me up about, his cart and tools being stolen is that it's not a regular cart. This is a superkart, a shifter cart. It's like got a 6-speed transmission on it and stuff like that. And you know, I've crewed with it. You know, I've crewed for my uncle. You know, with my other uncles and stuff like that. You know, they changed the jetting in the carburetor for the track or for the conditions that day. The sprockets on the transmissions and stuff like that. This isn't just like a cart with the, you know, pull string that you get down at the, you know, batting cages and stuff like that. This is a real serious piece of racing technology. So, I mean, if you don't have that thing set up right for whatever the conditions are that day, you could end up just popping the piston right out the side of the block. And I've seen it. The guys who know what they're doing out there racing. The one day I was crewing for my uncle, hung a rod out the side of the block of one of these things. So it's not just a thing that you can, you know, play with. It's a serious racing thing. So, you know, if somebody stole it just to have the cart, I mean, the cart's going to be destroyed inside of a month or even a week at that. But so yeah, so one of his buddies has just set up a GoFundMe. I'm going to put the link down in the description. He also had more of the story that I didn't know. So apparently, one of my other uncles had flown out to... So my uncle drove to California, met his buddies, bought the cart, and they all went together to Las Vegas, which is, of course, where his van got stolen. But before that happened, one of my other uncles flew to Vegas to crew for him at the race in Vegas, and then they were going to go to the next race was going to be in Charlotte. So my uncle was going to really do like the full circuit this year. And sure enough, they show up Thursday night, and they wake up Friday morning, and the van's gone. So the Las Vegas police are saying, you know, it's probably smugglers, so they can use the van to smuggle, you know, illegals or drugs across the border or something like that. So they might not even want the cart or the tools. They might just dump all that stuff out somewhere. You know, just scrap all this stuff. I mean, this is an expensive go-kart. You know, again, this is not the little, you know, lawnmower engine pull a string thing. This is serious technology. So this is serious money. The GoFundMe's got a goal of 5,000. I'm probably going to throw some money in here, and I hope you do too. So back to the work. So the issue is probably pretty much as I expected. I think this caliper bolt was just not tight enough. I'm not even sure. I mean, there's a tiny bit of give on this front brake here, and that may have been enough to cause the clunking and stuff I was hearing, because I honestly don't see anything else wrong here. Checking the sway bar bushings, sway bar end link looked good, trailing arms, steering linkage. And I don't think that's bent. I think that's supposed to be that shape. Have to check that out. Shock mounts, upper ball joint, lower ball joint. Everything else seems good. I did check the wheel while I was still on the road to make sure that was tight, because that's, you know, an obvious thing to check. So I did check the lug nuts while I was still driving down the road. It definitely wasn't the lug nuts. But the belly pan is still messed up. We'll get to that next. We'll just try and tighten up these bolts and see what happens. So yeah, that appears to be what the rattle was in the front here. You can't really, I mean, it'll still budge a little bit, but it doesn't budge like it was. So yeah, one of them bolts just came or wasn't all the way tight. So it's a good reason to do a nut and bolt check anytime you take something apart, put it back together, or before you go racing, or before you go on a long trip. I kind of did that, but apparently I just didn't get it tight enough. And again, it really did make didn't really give me any trouble until the trip back, where it was just getting progressively worse until I got here. So I'm gonna move around to the front now and maybe do something about this this front lip before I put this side back together and take it for a test drive to make sure the noise is gone. All right, so I'll give you guys a little look under here. Not real good lighting, but you can see where it scraped some there, and here's where it really came apart. Right up here in the front. Looks like it even pulled this rivet out of the front here. But yeah, I tried to rip this whole panel down, scratched it up a lot. Not that I care about that. But yeah, so I got to figure out how to get this back together the way it's supposed to be. Probably going to start by taking these little, probably 7mm bolts out. I don't know, let's find out. So those are the 4 screws from the damaged side that I took out. I also ended up having to take all the rest of these loose to get this panel to finally move so I could get it to line back up again. I discovered that, as what happens to these sometimes, is that they've got this little metal clip here, and that'll be in the plastic on the top piece, and then the piece on the bottom. You get the screw that runs through the piece on the bottom into the metal clip, which is clipped to the other side, and of course the clip has kind of ripped off, and there's a couple more that are kind of damaged on this side. So we're going to see what we can do to try and at least get it back to a working, some kind of working situation, and then put it back together. So the belly pan is reinstalled as good as I can make it, because there's supposed to be another section that clips on from the, or that bolts up from the front here, that goes back that way to the engine cross member. But yeah, the shop that did the supercharger on here never put it back on, or else it blew off after they put that on. Just a possibility too, but I think they just didn't put it back on the car. So we got the belly pan back up there, as good as it'll be for now. Put the wheel back on and go for a test drive, and hopefully the noise is gone and everything drives fine. So let's put this wheel back on and get going. So I'm also trying my other key fob to basically see if the changing the battery in the other key fob, or the other key fob itself, was the reason that the door wasn't working properly. And what I found is that it does the same thing with this key too. So there's been something gone wrong for a while in the I have a WCM fault in the system, which is a wireless key module, but I've had that for years. So since I had just the headers done, I've had that key fault, which unfortunately disables my cruise control, which made it real fun to drive across the country with no cruise control. But I was pretty used to that already. But now the doors don't work. But I've had this airbag recall for a while, so hopefully as soon as I have people living back here again, I'll run the car up to the dealership and maybe get that dealt with. Definitely get the airbag recall dealt with, because I've been kind of putting that off for 4 years now, because most of the time they send me the thing and the car's in storage, and I don't have anybody to bring me home after I drop it off at the dealer. So that's been ongoing and waiting. And this key fault, I've been kind of just, not really dealing with it because it didn't really matter to me that that the stability control light was hot. That's all it made it do, besides the cruise control not working. Since before that big trip to Florida, I never really took big trips in this car besides more than a couple hours. It wasn't a big deal, but yeah, it looks like now it's going to have to go into the dealer and see if they can figure that stuff out. But let's go ahead and get on down the road and see if all that clunking noise is gone. I thought I filmed driving down the road after adjusting that brake caliper, but I didn't. So I'm pleased to say that everything's perfect now. There's no rattle, there's no clunk, nothing in the steering. Everything's fine now. So both of those caliper bracket bolts were loose, but I only got like maybe an 1/8 turn on the one and maybe a 1/4 turn on the other. They weren't very loose. They were just the teensiest bit loose, but that was enough to make it a really alarming rattle. So I'm glad I got that taken care of. If you guys, happen to find out anything, see anything, hear anything that might help my uncle with his cart, contact the Las Vegas PD, or you could possibly contact me and I could arrange something. Beyond that, again, the link to the GoFundMe is in the description. So thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.